As you can see, Quantock Orienteers have had a lot of events this year, despite some cancellations due to COVID. Jog particularly successful, big street series, beat the trail, bit hammered, lost a few at the end, and quaffle similarly. We're going to have a look at a few of these in more detail. So Jog, Junior Orienteering Group. So this is most Saturdays through the first 2 terms, and it's a fun, low-key activity, mostly aimed at juniors, but also adults, particularly on the Fox course, have a go. Range of different types of activity in Fox course. This one here we're looking at was a bit of an urban experience for some, but often in Fox we've had some quite good ones, particularly including alternatives. We also, aligned with Jog, we had a weekend training, which we're hoping to become a more annual thing, though obviously that may prove difficult for camping and so on. And even managed to fit in a social meal and games. Of course, as every year, there was the Christmas Novelty, which always has some interesting rules and alternative ways of scoring, and followed by the meal. Now our street series, which are evening urban runs, has proven very successful. We have a generally long course, short course, and a motor assisted category. And they've taken place in quite a few places around Somerset and even into Devon. This is one of the first ones in the series. You notice sometimes they use modified maps focusing just on the streets and paths. Unfortunately, on this recording the GPS does wander rather a bit, but it does give you a feel for doing one of the courses. Yeah, didn't actually go into Waitrose. Now these are score courses, so unlike some of the others that people do quite often, you're picking the own order you're doing and trying to score as well as possible. And we tend to have them spread out quite a large area. Then the more traditional league, the quaffles, which tend to take place Sundays throughout the first 3 quarters of the year. And a new thing we've been trying, nicked from North Gloucestershire I have to admit, are Beat the Trails, which we're planning on holding at the same time as most quaffles. Some of them have proved incredibly muddy this year. Now, a Beat the Trail takes place in a traditional orienteering area with an orienteering map, but the course is aimed to actually follow paths, trails and so on, with all the controls in obvious locations. It's marked with bright day-glow orange pegs, so a trail runner could just ignore the map, follow the pegs and run the course. However, there'll be places where a little bit of orienteering skills and navigation will allow a shortcut. And it has proved quite interesting, some of the people managing to get incredibly good results. We do aim for about 7.5 kilometres per event. Another new thing, the Quantock Challenge, which, if we decide it was successful, we're going to hopefully make an annual event. Now, this was a long score course, about 5 hours. Well, 5 hours was the limit for the long course and 3 hours for the short course, taking a large proportion of the northern Quantocks. Now, we used quite a large, 1 to 25,000. You can see here the root gadget version, so not the best quality printing, but it gives you the idea of the controls. But each control scored its face value rounded down. So 95 would have scored 90, 71 would have scored 70, and so on. What we're about to see is just a selection of people, because I'm having to do this before the deadline, before it finished, but you just give an idea of the whole range of different routes that people took. Now, whilst watching this, it's worth remembering that obviously these were just Quantock Orienteers organised events. We've had members competing in all sorts of different things by other clubs all around the country. So a really, really good set of activity of people. It's very sad it was curtailed, but we've managed quite a bit. Whilst we've had the lockdown, we've obviously been planning this. We've also had some just for fun events held at our various permanent orienteering courses, and various people out training, mapping, and so on. So I hope you've enjoyed this very quick overview of our year.